I'm concerned for The Elder Scrolls 6. I think I got a bit too carried away there. There used to be a time when Bethesda Game Studios and Bethesda in general warranted incredible degrees of reverence within the gaming industry, and also amongst their own fanbase. Respect that, dare I say, was virtually unmatched. Bethesda Game Studios announcing something was a big occasion that people actually looked forward to, and when they released, oh boy were they great. Whenever Bethesda had something to show, they were the main event. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Now Bethesda find themselves being more concerned with remastering and re-releasing Skyrim for every piece of hardware in and out of the house. Soon you'll be able to play Skyrim on the lawnmower, or be sat in a hospital watching your granddad die because the nurse stole the defibrillator to go slay a dragon. Before you know it, crafty old Todd will be looking for ways to port the game onto a calculator to make exams 1,000,000 times less boring. I think you get the point. Bethesda have milked this cash cow like a milkmaid drinking Red Bull and confusing the job at hand with a hand job. On to more recent events. I know I'm flogging the dead nan here, but then there's the shit that is Fallout 76. Oh my god, where do I begin with this pile of steaming glitch filled quote unquote 16 times the detail 1600 times the agony garbage? Oh yeah, right there, this game is terrible. Hands down up there as one of the worst games I've ever played. And this came from the same people who gave us Skyrim? What? Bethesda, oh how you've let me down. We've gone from this beauty to this. This is the most interesting and engaging thing in Fallout 76. It's more or less an undeniable fact that Fallout 76 has been a commercial failure, with prices falling through the floorboards quicker than any AAA title I think I've ever seen. So if you need a new dartboard, you know where to go. It's probably best we don't dwell on the quality of Fallout 76 too much, even though it is a heavy focus of this video, because in the grand scheme of things, Fallout 76 itself doesn't matter. The problem lies with its reflection on Bethesda Game Studios and their attitude towards making games. Then there's the flawed engine that they still rely on, that they've been using since Morrowind, a game that came out in 2002. That's how old the creation engine is. The best part of 2 decades, at the very least. Though technically that was Gamebryo and the creation engine is actually a more upgraded version of that. An engine that Todd Howard confirmed a version of which will be used for their upcoming titles Starfield, whatever that is, and The Elder Scrolls 6. Oh dear. Now there's no way The Elder Scrolls 6 can possibly be as bad as Fallout 76, right? I'm sure it will be better, but how much better is the alarming question. This much? That much? This is hurting my head. The Elder Scrolls 6 may be one of the most anticipated games ever, and Fallout 76 being made by the same people is a massive red flag. Stalin has nothing on this. In Bethesda's defense, it's unlikely that The Elder Scrolls 6 will be as bad as Fallout 76, because a lot of the reasons why I wasn't a huge fan of Fallout 76 came with its online services, its lack of NPCs, and interesting things to do because it's all online. The Elder Scrolls 6 better not be online, and therefore it probably won't have that problem. So it'll take some real brownie level stupidity to get that bad. If you don't get that joke, that's probably because it's an inside joke, and ignorance is bliss for everyone but him. 5 minutes in and I'm not even out of the introduction, oh my god. So this video is going to be broken down into 2 key parts: attitude and engine. as this is where the problems with Bethesda Game Studios now lie. And to say this is a new thing would be a complete fallacy, because these issues have slowly been building within these games since Skyrim at the very least. 7 years is a long time for a bad seed to fester. But without further ado, let's get into exactly how Bethesda can save the Elder Scrolls 6 before it even needs saving. It's a preemptive rescue, alright? The video isn't clickbait, I promise. Views plus money equals pussy. Oh wait, apparently not. Though it's quite easy to blame all of the blunders on the creation engine, a lot of the blame actually does fall under the attitude of the developers. What does re-releasing Skyrim a million times tell you? They want minimum effort for maximum profit. And though maximum profit is surely the endgame, because it is a business, that is understandable. It is quite annoying when they're trying to get maximum profit with minimal effort. The re-releasing of Skyrim and the dreadful effort that they put into Fallout 76 proves that they're attempting to use this model. Not going so well, is it? I wonder why. Furthermore, they don't even bother fixing or optimizing these games at all. Hell, Fallout 76 still has some of the glitches you can get in Morrowind, which is laughable, and you'd expect that in a comedy skit, not reality. Bethesda is so used to their modding community cleaning up every technical blip that they make. The same kinda rings true with Fallout 76, except you can't mod that, otherwise you'll be branded a cheater. You just stuck your own cock in your arse, Bethesda. And what's odd is modders get these patches up in days and they do it for free. Bethesda, you're paid to make this game. And you're paid to patch it. You're paid to work on the game, whereas modders do it for free. And yet somehow they seem to care more about someone doing a moonwalk in the Blue Palace than you do. This is one of many examples of Bethesda's complacent attitude towards making the game. They believed Fallout 76 was good enough, which is a terrible attitude to have in the entertainment industry on the whole. Because something being good enough is accepting that it's not the best you can make it. And as far as demeanors go, I'd consider that to be a pretty arrogant one. Bethesda have now been porting Skyrim all over the shop these past few years without doing very much to fix the bugs that have plagued the creation engine and its predecessor Gamebryo since the Morrowind days, when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Now, there was one thing they actually did improve on performance-wise with Skyrim when they were porting it all over the place. In the Skyrim Special Edition, they changed from a 32-bit system to a 64-bit system, which made the game more stable, though I think we can all agree that doesn't say very much. So in the past 2 decades, Bethesda Game Studios have used this old, dying engine to make game after game with the arrogance that allows them to ignore all the issues they're carrying over without giving a soggy floaty shit about how they can bring that game down. You could chalk this down to the seeming ignorance of all these issues, but Todd Howard actually addressed these issues in a self-aware joke at E3 2018. You know, right before he made us forget by announcing this, which means nothing currently. As Todd Howard said, they're working on it, but we all know that it's years and years and years away, and Todd Howard's full of shit. So we know that Bethesda knows their games are buggy messes, and yet they still leave it up to the modders to fix these problems. Shout out to the modding community, by the way. You've made my experiences with Bethesda games incredible. Alongside their refusal to rectify these issues and relying on their modding community to fix them unofficially, which not everyone knows how to apply properly, they seem to have grown complacent with the engine as a whole, believing it's good enough to keep their games afloat. Fallout 76? And you know what, this engine may have a bit of fight in it yet, but their lack of interest in making the game the best it can be means they seemingly don't care enough to update it to a more modernised version at the very least. And that's where we wind up getting unpolished crap that wouldn't even look good if it was released 10 years ago. What's more annoying is these aging graphics are being covered up with fancy lighting too. Like, Bethesda knows the base look is crap and tries to cover it up with loads of 3D post-effect nonsense, like God rays out of the fucking ground! What a waste of people's graphics cards' memory that could be used to render textures that don't look like blocks from Minecraft. So this raises the question, how does Bethesda rectify this for the Elder Scrolls 6? Well, their attitude towards games based on recent events needs to change. They've blown their reputation away with unfathomable levels of stupidity, and they don't have the room to be stuck up themselves with their next project, or they'll find themselves really struggling. The attitude really needs to shift from "it's good enough" to "is this the best it can be?" And if the answer is no, then it needs work done. Sure, not everything can be perfect, nor do they have to be, but even when you've got a reputation, you still have to put your back into it, or you'll soon flush it down the toilet like these goofs have. So Bethesda needs to get off the high horse, acknowledge their mistakes, and use them as a lesson to strive to be better and make actual good games once again. They need to take feedback to the table and actually improve and optimize their games in all ways. Each project needs to be better than the last, but for Bethesda Game Studios it seems to have been downhill from Skyrim. And after Fallout 76, I wouldn't imagine they'll be forgiven if they can't get back on track for Starfield. Let alone the Elder Scrolls 6, because if that's bad, the Elder Scrolls Zealot army will rise up from their caves and riot for the next 10 years until Bethesda release the next half-baked Elder Scrolls title. And God help you when the Zealots are on your back, because they can really be quite nasty. If this attitude doesn't change, it could see the end for Bethesda Game Studios, because Fallout 76 was a commercial failure, and the next game likely will be too if they don't sort it out. A lot of people find themselves asking this very question of Bethesda Game Studios. Why the hell do they still use the Creation Engine? For those who don't know, the Creation Engine is essentially the Gamebryo engine which has been used since Morrowind, as I mentioned earlier, which makes it nearly 2 decades old at the very least, and boy does its age show. This engine has been showing its age since Skyrim, which was well over 7 years ago. The engine is seemingly naturally filled with bugs. It runs very clunkily and the AI is about as dumb as a man with an IQ so low he's legally been banned from reproducing. The technological setbacks really break the immersion, and this is supposed to be an RPG, so you're supposed to get immersed in it. But it's kinda hard to get past the fact that everyone's walking around like they've had a walking stick up their rectum for the past 15 years at the very least. And as I mentioned, gameplay is super clunky and in dire need of upgrading. And then there's the graphical side of things, which needs a serious revamp because Fallout 76 is ugly, to put it kindly. Just like you then. I'm not even going to argue. To top it all off, we've got performance to worry about. The Creation Engine hasn't been in the most stable games ever, as we know. Bethesda Game Studios games are about as stable as your psychotic ex-arm with a machete. How much of this is down to neglectful optimization on Bethesda's part or the engine's instability in coding is above my knowledge. But let's just say that its sample size is great enough to make me wonder if they ditched this fossil and got a new engine, would it yield a superior performance? And if the answer is yes, why aren't they doing this? That being said, I do think the dominant issue with Bethesda's quality seemingly dropping off the face of the earth, I hate saying that because it implies the earth is flat, which is plain absurd, is their good enough approach to developing games. So they don't necessarily have to change the engine on the whole to make a great game, though considering Fallout 76's blunders, I'd say such a drastic alteration would be advised. But regardless, change the engine or not, Bethesda need to revise this engine and upgrade it to Kingdom Come or replace it with a more up-to-date engine that can keep up with modern gaming, because Fallout 76 is just proving that Bethesda is falling behind. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again, you can upgrade an old car all you want. There will always be a new one of the same kind that outperforms it. If you want an example, I believe Obsidian Entertainment's current project, The Outer Worlds, is using the Unreal Engine, which appears to play very similar to how the Elder Scrolls and Fallout do. And so I'd say that the Creation Engine isn't the be-all and end-all for the style of RPG that the Elder Scrolls 6 will surely be. Now, Bethesda have used the argument that they know the Creation Engine, it makes for easy world building, and the modding community knows it too, and thus they have a reason to keep it. This, in my mind, is an excuse. All this tells me is that Bethesda Game Studios have grown lazy, and they'd rather not experience this shift. This is a very silly argument to make. The modding community would figure this engine out when it came to it, and coming to terms with a new engine in office might mean a couple extra years of development time, but that'd be time well spent. The only issue there would be finance, and I can't imagine Bethesda being in a financial pickle at the moment. Though I'd imagine Fallout 76 didn't bring in enough revenue and nearly landed them in legal anal hell, the company itself and ZeniMax, the parent company, aren't exactly scratching for coppers. Bethesda Game Studios decided to go full blam all out. I think that they'd be funded to do so. If not, then ZeniMax are really holding them back from actually making good games. And when it comes to the Elder Scrolls, you're going to want the best. Because potentially the Elder Scrolls 6 could make billions, not millions, billions, and beyond. So I think either some serious upgrades are needed or a complete new engine would be a great way to ensure the Elder Scrolls 6 isn't a disaster. The graphical finish, the optimization, the gameplay and the NPC AI all need drastic improvements, and to top it off, we need an engine that allows everything to play in one seamless cell, not have loading screens every time we walk through a door or through gates into a city. It really screws the immersion. We need an engine that can handle that. There are many improvements that need to be made here, and hopefully Bethesda wise up and get cracking. Even if it means we wait even longer for the Elder Scrolls 6, it won't matter. What matters is that what's shaping up to be more than a decade's worth of wait is worth it. Just imagine waiting up to a decade, anticipating a game all the way, and when it finally comes out, it's like Fallout 76. A fate worse than death. You'd probably like go insane and kill your dog. So to summarise what needs doing, Bethesda needs to get off their high horses, ditch this seemingly arrogant demeanour, actually find a collective passion to making amazing games. This in turn should be met with improvements to the graphical state of their games as well as the quality of gameplay, performance and all those wonderful things as an immediate effect. They should at least be looking to improve this engine properly, and almost beyond recognition, or make an entirely new engine that can hold its own in the modern gaming market that we can rant about in another 20 years when they likely grow complacent once more. And a couple other things to preemptively save the Elder Scrolls 6, please, oh please, don't make it online. And also bring back all those interesting lore bits and details, stop dumbing the games down. Those are minor things, but they're not quite the point of this video. And would you look at that, I've made it through an entire Elder Scrolls related video without using that Enwar clip from Morrowind. Don't mind me while I quickly rectify that.
You Enwar.
And there you go, that's my take on how to preemptively save the Elder Scrolls 6, because Fallout 76's existence is very alarming, and it really does have me worried sick about how the Elder Scrolls 6 could be handled. But of course, please bear in mind this video was in my opinion, you're entitled to your own, leave them down in the comments section. But anyways, thank you all for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff, I would really appreciate it. And I'll see you all very soon with another video at some point.